The ninth mission in Halo 3, Cortana, is regarded as one of the hardest missions across all of the Halo games. This mission will test your skill against the Flood, Halo's infected, zombie-like enemy. The Flood is a relentless horde that will attack you to no end, and that is what makes Cortana one of the hardest missions in all of the Halo games. Throughout this video, we will explore exactly why Cortana is one of the hardest missions across all of the Halo games. And I'll also give you some helpful tips that will allow you to pass this mission a little bit easier the next time you play it. So grab your flamethrower because we're going to figure out why Cortana is such a hard mission. The mission Cortana starts off with the Master Chief being dropped into High Charity. High Charity was once the capital city of the Covenant, the main enemy in Halos 1, 2, and 3. The last time we saw High Charity was in the mission High Charity in Halo 2. During this mission in Halo 2, you are on High Charity as Master Chief and the Flood is attacking it. When you start the mission Cortana in Halo 3, you can obviously tell that it's been some time. The purple hallways of High Charity are now covered in orange Flood bits. You may be thinking, why would anyone want to step foot in a place like this? Well, the reason the Master Chief is here is because he has to find Cortana. The last time we saw Cortana was at the end of Halo 2. Master Chief left her on High Charity so he could fight for Earth. Delving into the infected bowels of High Charity for your internet space girlfriend may seem like a pretty crazy task, but it ends up being a very fun mission. And part of the enjoyment in playing this mission is the fact that it's so difficult. That's not to say that the mission is impossible. If you'd like to speedrun it or you're an experienced player, you can do this mission fairly quickly. The fastest Halo 3 Cortana run on Legendary difficulty is 6 minutes and 31 seconds. Very fast. Compare that to the first time I played this mission live on stream on Legendary. It took me 42 minutes and 10 seconds. Now since then I have dabbled in speedrunning just a little bit and my best Halo 3 on Legendary Cortana time is 10 minutes and 10 seconds. So before you get discouraged about playing Halo 3 or any of the Halo games on Legendary difficulty because you think they may be too hard, just remember that with any amount of practice you can get good. But what about this mission makes it so difficult? Well, for starters, Cortana has a ton of Flood, more than any other mission in any other Halo game. Most of the battlefield in this mission is composed of small corridors, which means that the game doesn't have to render large set pieces or any beautiful environments. This allows the game to run better with more Flood in it, and it's one of the reasons that this mission is just packed to the brim with Flood. And because you're fighting these Flood in very small corridors, it can be very hard to find some cover. Flood are everywhere in this mission, but that's only one of the reasons that this mission is so difficult. The Flood in this mission are also very diverse. All of the Flood forms have come out to play, and they're going to kill you. In previous missions in Halo 3, the Flood were fairly standard. They weren't too difficult to kill. Most of them would go down with a couple of easy shots. But because the Flood in this mission are so diverse, it can give you some problems. If you are inexperienced with this mission, you'll probably try to fight all of the Flood that's attacking you. This is a huge mistake as the big tank Flood forms are designed to soak up as much damage as possible. Then when your clip is empty, the faster Flood forms come to kill you. It's a formula that for the Flood works very well, and if you play into it, you're definitely going to die. One of the worst parts about this mission is that there are tons of Flood Stalker forms, and they can transform into this Flood Ranged form. These Flood Ranged forms have insanely high accuracy, especially on Legendary difficulty, and they can kill you pretty quickly. But even if they're not shooting you directly, they can keep you behind cover, and again, when you're sitting in one spot, the Flood are very strong. When you stand still, the Flood will swarm you and kill you. And all of these diverse Flood work together in order to get that job done. This is really the first main section of the mission. It is a massive arena full of Flood that all want to kill you, and if you're not careful, you can die fairly quickly. Trying to fight all of the Flood in this room will almost always lead to your death. There's just far too many Flood coming from far too many different angles for you to handle. The background gameplay here is on normal difficulty, and I only played on normal difficulty to show you just how many Flood are in this room. You'll notice on normal difficulty the Flood die fairly easy, and I can fight them fairly well. However, if you tried to fight like this on Legendary difficulty, you wouldn't last very long. What I'm going to show you now is how I get through this section on Legendary difficulty. When you first drop down this hole, you're going to want to try to make it to the right side of this first part. You're going to want to try to make it onto those ledges. It's kind of hard with the Cortana cutscene playing because you move a little bit slower, but you can do it. Jump up onto this purple thing and throw a grenade, which will kill most of those Flood. With those Flood dead, hug the wall right, and here you're going to have to do a slide jump. If you slide down this ledge while crouching and then jump at the right time, you will fling yourself forward, which can skip a lot of these enemies. If you can pull off the slide jump, you will shoot past all of the enemies, and these two popper forms won't even touch you. It just goes to show that even though this level has some of the most difficult engagements, you can move past them fairly quickly if you have enough practice. Moving on to the next section, we come to an infamous part in this level, known to some in the community as Hell's Hallway. It gets its name Hell's Hallway because this is one of the hardest parts in the entire mission, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Dozens of Flood spawn in this small hallway, and you have to fight all of them. And remember those ranged combat forms we talked about earlier? Well, they're in this hallway, and they make it very difficult. In order to survive, you have to dodge the infected brutes and the infected elites shooting you from the ground constantly, all while the infected Flood ranged forms are shooting you from the air. If you manage to survive with just a sliver of health and you think that everything is going to be okay, don't worry, because more Flood are surely on the way. Do you remember how I said earlier that this mission had the most Flood in any mission in Halo 3? Well, I wasn't lying. Due to the small corridors of the map, we can spawn so many Flood, and Bungie decided to do just that. But I'll be showing you how to get through this hallway a little bit easier. In the previous room, make sure to run along the bottom or right along the top of this structure here to make sure you get an active camouflage. This is very important. Hell's Hallway can't be done efficiently without the camouflage, so you have to make sure you have it before moving on. To start the hallway, there will always be two Flood infector forms. Make sure to avoid them, though if you're fast, they shouldn't kill you if they pop out. Now, you're going to want to pull out your sword and start sorting everything in front of you. These are the Flood stalkers, and in general, they are very slow to transform. You can use that slow transformation to your advantage to get pretty far down the hallway. At the end of the hallway, you'll see a bunch of infected elites and brutes. This is when you want to activate your active camouflage. The AI in Halo 3 when it regards active camouflage is pretty dumb. Even if an enemy sees you and is looking directly at you, if you flip on active camouflage, they won't see you. Just proof that the mission is difficult, but if you practice it enough, it's pretty easy. The next room that you move to, I've heard called by a couple different names. Some call it the Hive Room, some call it the Tall Room. I just call it that room where you're supposed to die a bunch. This room is difficult because the Flood swarm you, just like every other section in this mission. This part of the mission is a spiral staircase with intermittent cover and a lot of Flood. And not only will you have to fight a ton of enemies on the ground, you'll also have to look up straight into the air and shoot all of the Flood Ranger forms that are raining fire down on you. Treacherous and confusing terrain can sometimes get you lost or force you to fall all the way back down, and this almost always ends in your death. This room is definitely a reason why Cortana is one of the hardest missions across all of the Halo games. Now, this section of the mission is enormously difficult if you try to fight all of the enemies in this room. Eventually, they're going to swarm you, or you're going to fall down and get caught in the open and die. There are a ton of different ways to complete this room quickly and efficiently, but I'll show you my method. I like it because it's pretty fast and also very safe. When you first come into the Tall Room, you're going to want to make sure to bear to the right. You're going to be jumping up on that purple piece and jumping up on this next ledge. Then you're going to move around and shoot tons of brute shots into this area. This will allow you to clear it out and get an active camouflage. The active camouflage is crucial. It always spawns in there, so don't miss it. Jump up here with a little crouch jump by jumping and crouching at the same time, and activate your camouflage at the exact same time that you complete that jump. Once you've completed the jump and also activated your camouflage, it should be very easy for you to just bear to the right and make it to the end of this section. Doing it this way saves you a ton of time and is pretty reliable. Using this method can also give you a bubble shield for the next section. The mission then prompts you to go to the Reactor Room, and in the Reactor Room you will fight tons of different types of Flood. This section isn't as difficult as some of the other ones because the amount of Flood is fairly limited. Ranged combat forms might give you a little bit of a problem, but there's not too many of those and not too many Flood in general in this section. To be honest, if you can make it past Hell's Hallway and also the Hive Room, then this section shouldn't be too difficult for you. Also, the AI seems to hiccup a little bit here. This sort of thing that's happening on screen tends to happen a lot, especially in this room. There is a really cool gravity hammer box jump that you can do that can potentially shoot you all the way across the map, doing this part in seconds. But it is one of the hardest box jumps in the entire game. But at this point, you're just a hop, skip, and a jump away from finding Cortana, and once you do, it's time to escape. This is where it can get pretty difficult, as there's a lot more Flood that spawn in this room the second time that you enter it. You have to destroy the reactor, and in order to do that, you have to get to the center of this area, which is very treacherous. I can't tell you how many times I've fallen walking on those skinny bridges. It doesn't help that Flood are rushing you from every direction, and you're also getting shot at from the Flood ranged forms. If you can manage to stay alive long enough to destroy the reactor cores, now you have to make your way out. If you were smart enough to pick up an active camouflage, it's not too difficult, but there are still a lot of Flood in your way. And by this point, you're probably fairly low on ammo, which is going to make it even more difficult. My method for this room can be a bit challenging, but if you can pull it off, it is a fast and efficient method to safely take you through this section. After grabbing Cortana and going through all of the hallways, Gravemind will talk to you a couple times, you'll want to come out of the room and go to the left. Kill all the enemies in front of you and make sure to pick up a new active camouflage. 2 should spawn here. As you make your way towards the middle of the room, make sure to kill any enemies and also activate your active camouflage. You'll also want to push the button in the center of the room. Pushing that button at the center of the room will expose the reactors. Here what you'll want to do is use your brute shot as fast as possible to shoot the 3 reactor cores. It only takes 1 shot each. Once you've shot all the reactor cores, you'll want to make sure to pick up the bubble shield that spawns next to the center button and move your way over to this red door. The enemies will not shoot at you around the door. They will only become aggressive when the door opens. There might be a few Flood that attack you, but once you hear the massive explosion, the door will open. There should be 1 brute Flood that you can easily kill, and then you can move on. From here on out, it's basically just race to the finish. Kill all the enemies in front of you as fast as possible and move in a straight line. The enemies come upon you very quickly in this final section, and if you let them, they will surround you. If you stay up high, you can avoid a lot of the Flood that attack you from the ground, as in these next couple sections, there are no Flood ranged combat forms. But once you get to the end of the mission, you will truly realize why Cortana is one of the hardest missions in all of Halo. Not because the end of the mission is difficult, in fact, it's one of the easiest parts, because you have the Arbiter with you. Arbiter is your rootin' tootin' Flood shootin' buddy, and he is not present in this mission. And this is really bad for you because the Arbiter is one of the best teammates across all of the Halo games. For starters, he's armed to the teeth with plasma rifles and his own energy sword. He can do a ton of damage, and there is no way that he can die. Just take a look at the Arbiter single-handedly destroying all of these Flood. Part of the reason the Mission Cortana is so difficult is you don't have this powerhouse to back you up. You don't have someone watching your back, and the Flood are best when you are unaware. I think the Halo 3 Mission Cortana would be an entirely different mission if you had Arbiter with you. He'd be able to pick up some of the Flood that you don't kill, he'd be able to watch your back, and he'd be able to tank a lot of the Flood for you. I think Bungie was genius in designing this mission by not giving you the Arbiter as a companion. You're forced to fight through hordes and hordes of Flood on your own, and it gives the mission so much more character. It still remains one of my favorite missions to play and speedrun, and you gotta admit, it looks pretty good in 4K 60 frames per second. So next time you embark on this odyssey of flesh and blood, just remember what's waiting for you at the end. Honor, glory, and your purple internet girlfriend. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video. If you subscribe, you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video so you won't miss any of them. I plan on doing a lot more of these type of deep analytical videos on missions in Halo. There are a ton of missions in Halo that deserve to be talked about, and I'm going to talk about them on my channel. So again, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss them. If you click or tap the logo in the left of your screen, you can subscribe to my channel for free right now. And if you click or tap the link on the right, you can find out why Halo Legendary All Skulls On is so difficult. I want to thank you all for watching. My name is LukeTheNotable. I want all of you to stay notable, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.